Trending with the Tribune presents producer Anthony Brogdon's new film, Business in the Black.
Hello everyone, welcome to this edition of Trending with the Tribune. I'm Janice Malone, I'm the entertainment editor here. And on this edition of the show, we have a very distinguished filmmaker in our presence here. His name is Anthony Brogdon.
Yes.
And he is all the way from Detroit, Michigan. I guess, Anthony, again, our little cold we're having is probably like pre-K for you guys in Detroit.
Yes, it is. Again, you never get used to it, but it is a little colder there.
It's a lot colder.
A lot colder. Maybe not today, though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, might be about the same.
We got an edge over you guys, I think, today.
Yeah. Well, you're going to get warmer before we do.
Oh, definitely. For sure.
And that's a good thing.
Well, Mr. Brogdon, tell me, you have this documentary that's out. Actually came out last year. So tell everyone about it. Understand that it specifically focuses on the successful Black African-American businesses in the 1800s all the way up until the early 1900s. So tell everybody about it and what's the name of it.
Sure. The name of the film is Business in the Black, which is a good name, I think, because no matter who you are, you want to be in the black when you're in business, and meaning that you're profitable. But it is a documentary that I produced. It came out May 31st last year. It's funny, now we're in the beginning of the year, so it is last year. And since its launch, it's toured across the country. So it's been in about 13 different cities, from as far away as Seattle to Washington to Atlanta to Cincinnati to Phoenix and Vegas and Washington and Chicago, so on and so forth. And the film has three premises, actually. It's 75 minutes long, and I, kind of condense all this to talk about the rise of black business in America. One of the premises is, how did slaves go to college? And a little known fact, we don't talk about it as much, but there were HBCUs open before slavery ended in 1865, such as Cheney and Lincoln. Howard University had a law school in the 1800s. And Oberlin College in Ohio was accepting blacks, prior to slavery. And so we delve into how slaves became knowledgeable enough to learn how to read and write and then qualify for actually receiving a college education. The other segment is, what did racists do to destroy black business districts? And I wanted to put that and kind of put that in the middle, because these districts across the country had grown to be so thriving and profitable that there were instances such as, and we all know about the one that happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma, with the Black Wall Street district, that they actually bombed it. And this is in the 1830s. And these African Americans were really just self-sufficient in their own part of the town. But then not just that one, in many other cities, as they did in my city in Detroit, they ran a freeway right down the middle, just to destroy the district. And I had found through my research cities where the freeway was not initially going in that direction, but then the powers to be, the local government said, hey, let's move it over here and let's tear up what they've done. And so we talk about that. But then the bulk of the film and the ending of it is what we named Black Millionaires. In the 1800s. Now, it really wasn't $1 million, but they would be worth $1 million in today's terms. We named slaves who were able to buy their freedom, who had saved enough money, and there were slaves who did get some wages. And one guy we found, he was so successful that he bought the freedom of not just himself, but so many other people. They named a town in his honor. We name churches and talk about churches and organizations that help foster and help grow the black business district across the country. And then I interviewed about 30 people whose family owned a business in the early 1900s. For example, the sons of the founder of a black hospital started in 1917, or the sons and daughters of a black cemetery started in 1925. And I put all this together so that when you walk out of there, you're inspired, you're entertained, but you're educated.
Yes.
And I've gotten rave reviews and even some reactions of people, in the Q&A after the showings. I'm going out to start my own business, because if they could do it back then, I can do it now. There's no reason why I shouldn't. And so that's Business in the Black, the rise of black business in America.
Now that is some good information to inspire people to want to go out, you hear me on this, and to do their own business.
Oh, for sure.
That is wonderful.
Yeah.
That is absolutely wonderful. Now, most people, when we think of black millionaires during the early part of the century, the first person they think of as far as African Americans is Madam C.J. Walker.
Sure.
So what other professions were there black millionaires that became, as you said, today they would be considered as millionaires? What other businesses?
Well, let me just, on the Madam C.J. Walker note, she worked for a black woman who also had a hair care company. And even before that, her brothers were barbers. And that's how she got in the industry. So her brothers were barbers. They taught her a little bit about it. She worked there as a child. And then she worked for a lady by the name of Madam Atibo, a pro-roll beauty supply. And excuse me if I'm not pronouncing that correctly. But there were others like people in the lumber industry. I found a guy who actually manufactured cars. These are horse-drawn buggies. Yes. But he manufactured them and employed up to 15 people. There were bankers. There were funeral home directors. There was a guy who owned a grocery store and was considered a high-end grocery store in his time. There was a guy who was a caterer. And so it's across the board in terms of the industries that these people actually operated in to become successful. Now, in some instances, their parent, the dad might have been a white guy who actually, had a child with the black woman, sure. And the white guy accepted this child. And so the young man worked in his father's business, and when he died, I cite that in the movie, he actually inherited his dad's business and grew it from there. There were another instance where a black guy partnered with a white gentleman and was able to then buy his partner out. And so this is across the board in the type of industries that these people were able to do back in those days. So yeah, slavery was tough. There's no question about it. It was harsh. It was just incredible odds. But black people found a way. They found a way to kind of beat the system.
So
to play within it.
Were these businesses, were they primarily in a certain region? Were they in the Northeast, the Midwest, or just all over the country? They were
kind of all over the country. I mean, a lot of what happened is once you crossed that Mason-Dixie line and went into Ohio, that made things a little bit better. So you just had to get across that river. And so there were many instances like that. Once you went west, there were instances like what happened in Tulsa, in terms of, and what made that so easily for blacks is that the Indians actually took these black people with them. Oh. And then the black people broke away in some respects, and in Tulsa there's oil, and began to own the land, and then they owned the oil that was on their land. So it's across the board, but it happened in the South also.
So what inspired you to want to make a film about this kind of a topic?
The short story is about 20 years ago. I've always been self-employed. I've always done different things in the Detroit area, in my community. I had a Black Business Month event where I had a number of gentlemen, and it was just gentlemen, who owned businesses in the early days, in the 30s and the 40s, and they are all deceased now. I had one gentleman on this panel who was the first black car dealer in the United States. Another gentleman, and we cite him in the film, another gentleman, he actually owned about 14 different locations of pharmacies and ice cream shops in Detroit. And he was a multi-millionaire. And this is in the 30s and 40s. So I had this panel of people. I had a guy who was a florist, a guy who was a printer, and so on and so forth. And I had this panel of people, and I found that footage. Now, when I found it, it was grainy, it was shot with a regular camera, video camera. So I wasn't able to include it in the film. But it got me to thinking, I got to do something with this. I got to spread this message. And so from there, I began to, research, so on and so forth, and then put a business and the black together. It took me 2 years to finish the film, and I want people to hear these stories.
I think the timing to reignite the interest in it is definitely good with Black History Month just around the corner. And to speak of Black History Month, are you have any special plans? Is the film going to be shown at any film festivals, HBCUs, or what?
No film festivals because it's already been out now. And what happens at film festivals, they only want work that hasn't been seen in general population. My film has been out. I've had these shows, as I mentioned earlier, across the country. People can't order it on Amazon.
Okay.
So you can download it and order the DVD. Just go to Business in the Black or on my website, businessintheblack.net. We're having showing. We're coming to Nashville. We're looking to put some.
When are you coming?
I don't have a date, but we're putting that together very soon. So I think it's March or April.
Okay.
We're going across the country with this in various capacities. I'm approaching the HBCUs across the country. Again, I'm a little known one-man shop, so to speak. But this isn't my first film. I have one other film. Yeah, I have one other film out titled "The Great Detroit." It's a documentary about my hometown, and that came out in 2014. And so from there, I decided to keep going in this film industry. And so this is my second film. And in April, I began to shoot another film. Titled Foot Soldiers. It's not a documentary, so I'm really stepping out on a limb. But I wrote this some years ago and as a play. I've adapted it for the big screen, and so we'll begin shooting that in sometime April or May, and you'll be looking for that on the screen.
Well, I love it when people finish, whether it's a film or a book or an album, because when it's independent, that's a lot of work.
Oh, yeah.
And so I say congratulations to you on completion of all of your films.
Sure.
Tell me this really fast. What is going on with Detroit? Is there, I know I did, that there's gentrification going on there. What is happening in a nutshell with your city?
There is, but that's across the board. Detroit is no different than what's happening as I've traveled in Cincinnati and in Seattle and Washington. From what I've even heard, they're even trying to rename Harlem. I mean, there was some little word about that. Yep. We're getting that. We have a white mayor now, which I never thought would ever happen, because of the makeup of the city. But a lot of good things are happening in Detroit. But don't be alarmed. The brothers and sisters are not letting anybody take over our town. It's just too many of us. We're too strong. We're too jointed together. Yes. But there are a lot of good things happening. I mean, a new stadium downtown, an announcement of a big high-rise downtown. And then we've always had a number of excellent annual events, jazz festivals, black art festivals, things of that sort. And so Detroit is really kind of growing in a lot of respects. And we're just welcoming other people to our town, not just African Americans, but whites are coming there too, as what you just spoke of. And they make a difference when they come in many respects. And some we accept, some we don't. But at the same token, it's a growth factor in my city.
Last question I want to ask you, how this type of film, topic matter, to me is very important, not only for African Americans to see, but other cultures and races to see this as well. What about in your case? Have you had whites or Asians, Hispanics, and other races to see the film yet, or what?
I have. I've had some shows where they dominated the audience in terms of the attendance. And because they like our history, they understand that it's a great history in some respects. They like that we've overcome and have grown to be where we are now, billionaires and multimillionaires and owning newspapers and businesses and things of that sort. And I'm sure there's some curiosity to it. So I have a little bit of both. I will admit though, my marketing and target, through social medias of Facebooks and Twitters and Instagrams are more towards, black people. That's just more of comfortability. But they're finding out about it, and there's some things that are happening, which I hope really make 2018 a bigger and a better year.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Cool. So we do need to cross-fit, since that's such a buzzy word, but we need to cross fit not only in physical fitness, but also in history and culture, business and all that. So I'm glad to hear that they are learning that we were not just slaves only.
Sure.
And our people have done a lot of, and still doing a lot of mighty things.
Sure.
One more time, give everybody your website address again.
Okay, well, the name of the film is Business in the Black, The Rise of Black Business in America, 1800 to 1960s.
Okay.
The website is businessintheblack.net. You can get it on Amazon. Just go to Amazon. You can download it. You can order the DVD. You can follow me on Twitter at A Strong Dream. Okay. You can follow me on Facebook. There's a page called Business in the Black, and you'll see all the various people who have purchased a DVD. I take their picture as if they do it with me personally, yes. Or people send in their photo, and then we try to. There's a group called Business in the Black, and I ask people to send in stories of that they know of black business stories, and so that group is actually growing. Let's see. And you can, just follow me in those capacities.
Okay,
sure.
Find out exactly when it's coming to Nashville in the spring.
Yeah, it's coming to Nashville.
Any comment about the Lions?
I'm so disappointed in the Lions that they didn't make the playoffs. I'm happy that Tennessee did. And I was here when they won the game. I didn't attend the game. I wasn't there. It was a little too cold. Okay. But I'm happy for them. And now we're on to the Pistons.
The Pistons.
Yep.
Any predictions for your Pistons?
We'll make the playoffs.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're in third place, fourth place in the conference.
Just handle LeBron and you'll be okay.
I don't think anybody can do that. So the best thing is let him score his and close everybody else out. But no, things are going well in Detroit sports. And with black people, I wish everybody a happy new year in 2018. And at the end of the day, last thing I want to say is let's think positive. I've had showings of the film. The film starts with a guy who's 101 years old. He's 103 years old now. And we got all these good stories that we tell in this film. And so let's live that part for a moment. Let's see how great we are. And that's my message.
Yeah, thinking positive is totally free.
Yeah, totally free. And you'll feel better.
You will.
Smile like you smile. We're in good shape.
Well, again, Mr. Brogdon, thank you so much for being our guest on Trending with the Tribune.
Yes.
And we'll see you guys on our next show. Bye-bye.